Great. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Gateway to Grace call. My name's Elizabeth Tobin, and I do these calls just about every month, first Monday of the month. And we do a repatterning. And today our topic is repatterning power struggles in relationships. So I work with family relationships and family patterns. And power struggles it's a big one. So we're going to see what we're going to touch on today, and I wouldn't be surprised if we revisit this topic in future Gateway to Grace sessions. And so power struggles can be very obvious and overt, and they can also be somewhat subtle and a little under the radar. And they're very much interconnected with codependence, which we had touched on a couple of sessions ago. So I see the power struggles and the codependence as being very much related. And looking into the family patterns on where these power struggle patterns originate can give us insight into what is happening in our present day relationships, and also just being able to shift those family patterns can bring us great relief and shift the dynamic in our present day relationships. And so we can see power struggles at play in the world in lots of different venues. One person or group trying to dominate another, having power over, even the way we relate with nature, having power over nature. And that seems to be a big power struggle in the world today. And then we filter that down into our personal relationships. And when we feel disempowered is when we can really fall into the power struggle pattern, because we try to regain our power by looking outside of ourselves, by trying to dominate or be right or have things our own way in relationship, rather than being able to collaborate and cooperate and see the other person's point of view. And oftentimes these power struggles can go on for years in relationship and can seem somewhat normal because we're so enmeshed in them that it feels like, well, that's the way relationship goes. And you can see this in the media, in the movies, in the television shows, where particularly in couples relationships, there's this like bickering, this sort of one-upmanship that gets portrayed. And so I would invite you to, as you move forward from today, after today's repatterning, to see if you can notice power plays in your own life, in your relationships, and also in the world around you, and how power plays get portrayed. And then the challenge is, can we make a different choice to de-escalate the power struggle, to bring balance of power, which creates harmony and cooperation? So there were a number of people who had reached out to me that said they couldn't be on the call today. So I record the calls and then I put them up on YouTube, and people can watch the replay afterwards. But also they can set their intention to be included as we do the repatterning. So let's take a pause and just sort of tune into this topic of power struggles and just ask the question, where in your life are you engaged in a power struggle? Or what relationship or relationships have the power struggle dynamic? And it can be a present day relationship, or it might be a past relationship that comes into your awareness. And one of the aspects of the power struggle dynamic is when we try to limit or restrict the other person in some way, restricting or limiting their actions or their options or their choices or their decisions. And to limit another's decisions is a sort of control and manipulation. And we may do it thinking that we're doing it for the other person's greater good, like we know what's best for them. And that's where the codependent dynamic comes into play. But the problem is each person has their own destiny, their own sovereignty, so to speak, and their own path to follow, their own decisions to make. And so how we give advice and whether we give advice can make all the difference in shifting the power struggle dynamic. And then once we give the advice, what is it that we expect? Do we expect them to take our advice? If they don't take our advice, do we feel put upon or frustrated or angry or unheard? Or can we say, well, I shared my opinion and I respect their decision and leave it at that? And when I think about power struggles in relationships, the image of the tug of war comes to mind, you know, where two people are on either ends of the rope and they're tugging and pulling.
Yeah.
And so shifting the dynamic requires us to let go of the rope. And if we let go of our end of the rope, the struggle is over. And then what happens after that is up to the other person, because again, we don't have any control over how the other person responds. And so what I find is that when we shift our own patterns, sometimes people shift with us and the relationship moves to a higher level of understanding and connection and harmony. And sometimes people don't shift with us, and then the relationship may fall away. We might realize, well, this relationship isn't the right one for me. But in either situation, it doesn't have to be blaming the other person. It can be just a realization that this relationship isn't the right one for me, and I release it with love and gratitude and appreciation for all that the person meant to me in my life. You know, that's sort of another aspect of the power struggle dynamic, is when relationships end, are we able to let go with gratitude and love for the person and respect, or do we keep the power struggle going in our mind with blame and regrets and recriminations? So there's a lot to this topic. And I'm just going to see here. Something more we need to talk about in terms of the power struggle dynamic. Okay. So I'd like to open it up to just a brief discussion in terms of, in what relationships do you notice the power struggle, or how does the power struggle show up for you? Yeah, Leanne.
I know it showed up first with my mother having the power struggle with me and me struggling back and forth, that tug of war. And sometimes it was hidden with advice. And that's the one I picked up. And it happened with my brother, me wanting him to do what I wanted him to do, like do physical therapy or something. And the attention was good. And I have realized in doing some of this work that's me imposing on him in a way that isn't healthy.
Yeah, yeah. Good insight. Thank you.
Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah. Anybody else have anything to add?
To add, or in response to that specific question, Liz?
Well, you could add, or you could be in response. You have
Yeah,
anything to throw into the mix?
You know, one of the things as I was talking about, I love what you were saying about that part of telling people, I forget how you said it, the change we want in them, or what we want them to do and where that is. I think in relationship also, to shift the dynamic, is we need to also include conditions. We can have conditions which are about ourselves for what we'll have in a relationship. So I may have a condition: I will not live and be in partnership with a drug addict. That's my condition, which is totally legitimate, and those should be identified. And that's very different than telling someone you shouldn't be on drugs. And we get really confused about that. And I've watched people stay in alcoholic relationships feeling, well, I can't tell him what to do. But we can be clear in any relationship on our conditions, and that's empowering.
Amen.
It's empowering of ourselves to have that clarity. And I just wanted to add that to the beautiful introduction you gave, that conditions and being in the codependent savior, I know better than you role are two different things.
Mm-hmm. Yes, thanks for bringing that up. And I think another word for conditions could be boundaries. You know, we can set boundaries that align with our values in relationship, what you were talking about.
And some of them operate as boundaries, but I think the common language we would use is, you know, I have certain, they're typically kind of referred to as conditions. What are my conditions by which I will do anything? It's not only relationship. And those conditions, when they're set and followed, they do operate as boundaries.
Yeah, thank you. Great. Good. Shelby, I cannot unmute you. Let me see here. I don't think Zoom allows us to unmute. No, I can ask you to unmute, but you already know you want to unmute. Huh. But you can type it into the chat if you can't get off mute. Yeah. Okay. So let's see where we need to go with this repatterning around power struggles and what's needed today to bring us all to a higher level of awareness and energy and well-being in our relationships. So what I'd like you to do is just take a little pause. And the first question is, in what relationship are you in, or have you been in, a power struggle? So we want to focus in on one relationship for this repatterning. And so you can have that in your awareness as we go through the session. And then the next question is, what is the power struggle about? And so just tune in and see what comes up for you. And so Leanne had mentioned giving advice, or having the other person not take the advice, or I want the other person to do something they don't want to do, but I want them to do it.
Yeah.
And would anybody like to say what the power struggle is about that they are focused on today?
Oh, I lost you, Liz.
Oh, we can hear you.
Okay. I see you again. I can say something. It's very interesting. It was my last relationship, and it was about being healthy versus unhealthy. Eating, drinking too much. I didn't know he had those issues, but the eating healthy stuff came from my family.
In what way?
My mother was always trying to control what I ate when I was overweight. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. And so, yeah, Shelby, yep.
So I have this art consultant that I've been working with, and I found that I don't like the way that she consults me. So what I'm coming to realize is she does what she does her way, and just surrender and working with how she does what she does. But I've been in a struggle in it for a really long time. But I think because of our other repatterning that we've done, that I just kind of accepted that she's on planet Venus and I'm planet Mars, and we're trying to get to Earth, and together that we'll get there. So that's kind of already been working.
Good, good. Thank you.
I experienced that. It seems to me that one of the power struggles in relationship is wanting to be, having sovereignty, wanting to have my own power, and being in relationship with someone who fears being controlled and therefore views everything through being controlled, and trying not to do that, but trying to control myself, trying to control them, trying to control everything. And it seems like the power struggle is subtle but ongoing.
Yeah, and so the thing about power is when we are in our power, we don't fear somebody else taking it, because it's like they can't take our power. Our power is inherent to ourselves, and we're either in touch with it and able to sort of wield it in responsible ways, or we feel disempowered. And when we feel disempowered, that's where the power struggle really comes through, because we're trying to regain power sort of in a way that is outside of ourselves. And so
Mhm.
feeling safe, secure, capable, all of that are internal postures.
Right.
Yeah. So thank you for bringing that up. And that's also, I think, a good point is the dynamic of the other person feeling like they're being controlled, or their fear of being controlled. But again, that's something that we don't have any control over. And so we can only look at our side of the street. And if we're coming from a place of open-heartedness and acceptance, free of wanting to control, that's all we can do. What the other person, how the other person receives it is out of
Right.
control. But having said that, I think it bears looking at, well, maybe there is some kind of subtle manipulation on my part, and to be able to examine that and look into that and be open to exploring it.
Yeah.
So we're going to move into the repatterning, and the first thing we're going to look at is the pattern that we need to switch off around the power struggle. So I'm just going to go through the list here and use the muscle checking and see what we need. So it's something from 1 through 5, 6 through 10, 6, 7. So what came up is my personal power is based on being the one who has the most strength and power in the relationship. My personal power is based on being the one who has the most strength and power in the relationship. And then we're going to look at what's the pattern that's needed to stop struggling for power. So it's something here from 1 through 5. It's number 1. It's number 2. I empower myself.
Mm.
Yeah. I empower myself.
I empower.
Empower myself. Yeah. And we're not resonating with that right now. So we'll switch that on. And then we need to look at the pattern related to control issues. Yes. And so the pattern here is something from 1 through 5, 6 through 10, it's 11, it's 12. I trust people who are untrustworthy. That's the pattern we need to switch off around control. And there's an aspect of discernment in that. being able to discern who is trustworthy. So I trust people who are untrustworthy, and we are resonating with that. And then we need to look at the pattern needed to let go of control. And it's something here from 1 through 10, 1 through 5. It's number 1. It's number 2. I allow myself to be me. I allow myself to be me. I'm going to check that umbilically. Yeah, that's off at a core level right now. And it's interesting. The pattern, the negative pattern that we need to switch off is I trust people who are untrustworthy. And then the positive pattern that's needed is I allow myself to be me. And so this is pointing to, like, how much do we trust ourselves? Can we trust ourselves? Can I trust me to be me? Can I trust myself to make decisions that are aligned with who I really am? Aligned with my values. Yeah. So let's see what's needed here. It's something around denial. Yes. So denial is also a factor in the power struggle. Are we able to see the other person clearly? Are we able to see ourselves clearly? Can we see the situation as it is? What is it that we don't want to see? And that also, there's a codependent aspect in there as well. The codependent dynamic is we focus on the other person so we don't have to focus on ourselves, so we don't have to see into ourselves and what we need and what we might need to change. So it's something here from 1 through 5, 6 through 10, 6, 7. I spend money compulsively instead of facing my problem. Yeah. So just take a moment and just see what comes up for you around that. Does that make sense to you? Can you see that in yourself? Or is that something that you do in certain situations?
I feel like when I'm really clear within myself that the experiences around me flow easily. And one of the clues to me that I'm not clear in myself is when I'm trying to manage my behavior to fit their patterns so they won't feel what I don't want them to feel. And all of that tells me that, okay, you're out of your sync, you're out of being empowered, you're into giving your power away. You've put all your attention on someone else so you don't have to look at yourself.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. Thank you for that. Yeah.
Have one.
What's that? I'm just gonna, so Marianne says, as an example, what if the other person, and she says her brother, in the other person's mind, you don't fit into his worldview. Therefore, whatever you do or how you do it, it's worthless, so to speak, doesn't have any value. You're a
Yeah.
weird person. You always need to comment on. And when you ask questions for more info about a subject, their reaction would be, first of all, spoken in outrage. You're stupid. You'll not understand my answers. He acts as if he's above anything, dominant. Does this fit in today's relationship issues? Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And so you can see the power struggle. He's trying to dominate. And yet, this might go back to what Michelle was saying about setting conditions. And it's very hard in the family sometimes to set conditions because, you know, they're your family. You don't really get to choose who your family is. But maybe what you can do is set some parameters around your interactions with him. And I think also it goes back to, you know, how empowered we feel. You know, I allow myself to be me, and I empower myself. Therefore, whatever my brother thinks of me is his business. I think it was Eleanor Roosevelt who said, what other people think of me is none of my business. And then setting conditions on the behavior.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes it involves making a hard choice about limiting our interactions with the people in our family if there is you know, abusive language going on.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So it'd be interesting to see how you feel, Marianne, after the repatterning. Yeah.
I have something to say.
Yeah, Shelby?
I have to keep the video off because of the weather.
Mm-hmm.
But my dad got the COVID shot and died, and my two sisters were in charge of it. And when I went to the funeral, I'm not vaccinated.
Oh,
I'm crying. Hold on. And it really affected my relationship with them. And it'd be nice to be friends with them. But I need them to just respect me and love me for who I am and not judge me because I don't have the vaccination or whatever, you know?
yeah. Yeah. And on the other side of that coin, is there anything in you that feels you're not maybe respecting them and their decision to have your father vaccinated, or is there any blame there?
No. There's no blame there.
Good, good. So let's look at the pattern around moving out of denial. And it's something here from number 1, number 2. And this is about admitting the seriousness of circumstances as they are. As they really are. Yeah. Yeah. And so there's a spectrum on denial and around this, you know, we can under under acknowledge
Mhm.
the seriousness. You know, we can downplay, oh, it's not that bad, I can live with this situation. Or on the other end of the spectrum, we can sort of blow things out of proportion. And so being able to see this, you know, where on the spectrum of serious it is this, and being able to admit the seriousness of the circumstances as they really are, so we can see clearly and make our choices accordingly. And then we're going to look at something around communication. And there's something from here. Yeah. So this is the pattern around communication that we need to switch off. And it's something from 1 through 5, 6 through 10, 6, 7. I try to say what will please people. And so this one is, you know, this it's an interesting sort of road to walk in terms of speaking our truth, but doing it in a way where it adds to the relationship, or or is in alignment with the highest good for everybody involved, including ourselves, versus, you know, people pleasing. And one of the things about the power struggle is I've seen like these relationships where there's a lot of bickering, and it's kind of like nitpicking, like somebody pronounces a word wrong and the other person has to, you know, correct them. You know, that's different. You know, I'm just, you know, speaking my truth. That's different, right? That's sort of like eating away at the other person, picking away at them. Versus on the other end of the spectrum, you know, not saying the big issue, right? Because we want to people please, you know, so we don't address things in the relationship that are important to us. And so being able to know goes back to, you know, what's the seriousness here? Like, do I really need to correct them because they pronounced a word wrong or got a fact wrong on something that is on the scope of things not very important, versus am I holding back on something that is important because I want to please? And so all of this is, it's fodder for us to work with and to contemplate and notice in our relationships. These are, you know, the little choices day by day and moment to moment that make up the dynamics of relationships. So we're going to switch off. I try to say what will please people. And then there's something that we need to look at here in terms of coherent communication. Yes. And it's something from 1 through 5, 6 through 10, 6, 7. And it's number 1, it's number 2, it's number 3. I feel what I say. I feel what I say.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think that means?
Authentic.
Yeah.
be true to yourself.
Yeah. So it's interesting. It's not I say what I feel, but I feel what I say.
Comes from the heart.
Yeah. 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 Good. So I feel what I say. So that's umbilically off. So that's off at a core level.
Mm.
So connecting to our feelings, connecting to our heart and our essence.
Right.
Yeah. And in some ways, that's the consequence of the power struggle, is that it is an attempt, I think, in essence, to disconnect somebody.
Yes. Yeah.
Whether we're doing it to somebody else or somebody's doing it to us, the power struggle is about whose essence is the quote unquote right one, right?
Yeah.
And so if there's not room for both people's authentic essence in the relationship, then one person's, in order to be in the relationship, has to disconnect from it, from their essence. And that's, I think that everybody would agree, like, nobody really wants that in relationship. What would be optimal is both people connecting from their essence and being authentic.
Right.
So we're sort of like clearing out the overlay of all of these patterns that get in the way of that, and how we accept and welcome the other person and their essence in the fullness of who they are. It goes back to that, I allow myself to be me. And the other side of that coin is I allow you to be you. And maybe allow isn't even the right word, because maybe it's I welcome
Mm.
you. Yeah. So let's take a pause and just sort of let all this settle in. Notice what it feels like in your body as we talk about these patterns and identify them. And there's something around limits you can look at. Yes. Okay. And I'm just going to ask, I'm hearing some noise on the line. So I think I'm going to see if I can mute everybody. Let's see. Or if everybody could mute themselves, that would be good.
I don't know how to do it.
I'm going to mute you. Yeah. Okay. I just muted you, Leanne. I think we're all muted. Yeah, that's better. Yeah. Okay. So this is the pattern around limits or boundaries in relationship. And we're going to look at the non-coherent pattern we need to switch off. And it's something from 1 through 5, 6, 7, 8. I am inconsistent in how I react to a difficult situation, which makes it difficult to set limits, and it confuses others. It's number 1 and number 2. Yeah. I'm inconsistent in how I respond to a difficult situation, which makes it difficult to set limits, and it confuses others. Yeah, and that's resonating. And then the coherent pattern that we need is something from 1 through 5, 6 through 10, 6, 7, 8, 9. I am consistent in how I respond in a difficult situation, and the limits I set are clear and respected. So I am consistent in how I respond to a difficult situation. And the limits or boundaries I set are clear and respected. And now we need to look at the number of generations that we need to shift this pattern. And so it's on the mother's side. We're going to work with the father's side right now. And it's 1 through 5 generations, 6 through 10, 6, 7. So I'm free of the pattern of struggling for power. From 7 generations on my father's side. Yeah, good. So clearing the family patterns, clearing them back within ourselves, and then that ripples out into future generations as well. So we need to go to a modality now. So I'm going to check to see what we need to make an input of energy into our group field to shift these patterns. And what's needed is something from here, and it's something from this index. It's something from A, B, C, D. We're going to do an interrupted movement. Okay. So this repattern, this modality addresses those situations in which as a child we couldn't be, and I'm going to check, this is around our father, interrupted movement towards the father. So we couldn't be with our father for whatever reason. And some of you, it might be very clear what the reason is. It may have been maybe illness, or your father had passed away when you were young, or it might have been he was working a lot. Could have been he was emotionally unavailable. It could have been you were in an incubator when you were born, separation due to long trips, hospitalization. And so the pain of the separation is linked to the feeling of love towards our father. And it can be very deep. And then as an adult, we don't want to feel that pain again. And so we prefer to be isolated and protect ourselves. So there's a protective stance involved that we're going to soften using this modality. And so this is how the interrupted movement towards our father has a negative effect on our adult relationships. And so this modality enables us to feel nurtured by our father and thus heal the way that we bond with others. And so there's a specific age we need to focus on. Yes. And the age is 10 years old or younger. Yes. It's younger than 5. Yes. It's 4. It's age 3. So we're going to focus on age 3. And so what I'd like you to do is close your eyes and imagine yourself at age 3. And your father is there. And you can see and feel how far away you are from your father and how much you need him. Now imagine a symbol that represents the obstacle which doesn't allow you to approach your father. It could be something like a wall or a fence. Whatever it is, whatever image comes up is fine. And when you've got the image of the symbol that's hindering you, you can put your thumb up. Okay. So now we're going to do something that's going to dissolve that obstacle. And so what I'd like you to do is just open your arms like that and just connecting with your heart center. We're going to say, ah. Just toning from the heart. Ah. Ah. And one more time. Ah. And that has a strengthening effect on the heart chakra and on the heart meridian. Connects you to your loving heart energy. And now go back. And again, see that image. You're 3 years old. Your father is there. And notice what happened to the obstacle. Anne says it's gone. Yeah, good. Yeah. Leanne, you feel that too? Yeah, good. And so if the obstacle isn't gone, that's okay, because you can go back and do this modality again. when I put the recording up. And you can continue to do some more ha from the heart until the obstacle has disappeared. Okay, so now hold that image, and now that there's nothing there that's hindering you from approaching your Father, you can feel how you come close to him, and you can go as fast or as slowly as you like, feeling protected and safe, and discovering how your Father welcomes you. He welcomes you with love, and he picks you up and he holds you. And now you can lean on him and let him take care of you. And allow yourself to receive all of the care and love, affection, attention that you've longed for. You can stay there and receive all of the love that your Father has for you. And if there's anything else that would make this experience even better for you, you can add that in. And now you can integrate this image into some part of your being so that whenever you need it, you can feel it and you can go back and be nurtured by all of this love and care. So place it into your body, into your being, wherever you like. And this is your secret place where you can find all of that love and care and attention. And you can always go back there. And now, very slowly, you can open your eyes, come back into the here and now. Just look around the room where you are. Coming back into the present moment, feeling loved and protected, cared for, safe. And take a few breaths. Good. Just notice how you're feeling now. Check into your body. And as I said, you can go back and do this modality again and again if you need to, if you feel like there's still something there, that obstacle is still there. Good. And this is complete. Great. Good. So all of the non-coherent patterns, the negative patterns that we've identified in this session have been switched off. And all of the positive patterns, the coherent patterns, have been switched on. Good. Good. And is there anybody, would you like to add anything or say how you experienced that repatterning or the modality, or have any questions?
Hello.
Yeah, Shelby.
So here's a picture of me and my dad when I was 4 and I was sitting on his lap. And when my dad died, my sister sent it back to me. And I just used this as a modality of that. It was a fantastic photograph. My mother took it. And so basically what I got was a neutrality growing up, even through all the years with my sisters. My dad has a relationship with them. He has a relationship with me, and they're all separate, and kind of released all the negativity, jealousy of attention or not attention or whatever. And I did a lot of work on my heart with this light, and I felt a lot of release from looking at that picture and just going through all the years and being okay with whatever love he gave anybody. And I felt full at the same time.
Wow, that's beautiful. Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. Nice. Yeah. Anybody else have anything you'd like to share? So Henny says, thank you very much. Anne says, thank you. Henny says she's feeling more peace. Good. Marianne says, thank you. Awesome. Great. So thank you, everybody. I just want to also let you know, so I work with people one-on-one in a program format, and I also work with groups, small groups, from 4 to 6 people around family patterns and relationships. And if you're interested in learning more about how we might work together, you can reach out to me at et@liztobin.com. So thank you very much, everybody. And I'll be posting this, the recording on YouTube, and I'll be sending out a notice to my mailing list. So if you're not on my mailing list, you can go to liztobin.com, and the contact page has a form that you can fill out to get on the mailing list. And I'll send you out the replay link and also the reminders for the next Gateway to Grace, which should be the first Monday in April at noon Eastern time. So thank you, everybody, so much for tuning in. Have a great month, and we'll see you next month. Bye-bye.